Hey all, I am going to go over um, lesson one, sketch one. So let me see if I can find the drawing for that. This is in our Google Classroom. I just wanted to talk to you all a bit about this. So here, this is lesson one, sketch one. First, you'll notice at the bottom right-hand corner, this is in millimeters. So we need to make sure that our units are in millimeters. All right. Also, we can see that this is symmetric from left to right. And we have several dimensions that we need to put in. All right. So this is sort of like a T, but we have this extra bit of space or material down here. So we'll take a look at that. All right. So in Onshape, we're going to, since this is a regular sketch, we're going to put this on our front plane. If we come over here, or our front view, but it's going to be the front plane. If we come over here, we can hover on our planes and we can hide what we don't want to see. So we don't want to see the top plane. We don't want to see the right plane. We do want to see the front plane. So I'm going to right click and create a new sketch. And then I can right click and then view normal too. And I'm going to show you a few other ways that you can create a sketch. Okay, I can create a sketch from here, and then it's going to ask me to select my sketch plane, and then I'll choose front. Okay, or I don't know if I already went here to front and then new sketch, but also here and new sketch. So there are several ways that we can create a new sketch. Okay, now from here, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to select my line tool, and then I'm going to select this construction tool. And what this will allow me to do is create a reference line. So usually we'll have a horizontal and a vertical reference line. But since this is only going to be symmetric from left to right, and I need to provide a reference line for symmetry, I'm only going to put in my vertical reference line or my y-axis. Okay, so now I'm going to deselect my construction tool. I still have my line tool selected, and I'm just going to draw a general outline of the shape. So what I did was I just clicked on my mouse and then drag that line over. So I can click again and I can continue to roughly make this shape. Now, everything does not have to be exactly perfect right now, but you'll see when we put the dimensions in, then things will start to look up. All right, so I have a general outline of what we need. And here's a reminder of what we're looking at. Okay, so I know that this is not horizontal, but it needs to be. So I'm going to click on this and I want to make that horizontal. But there's also something else that I need to do with it. Okay, so let me deselect that and I'm going to introduce you to our constraints. So over here, this drop-down menu, this is going to give you your constraints. So we have coincident, we're going to use that today. Parallel, we don't need that today, but we use that a lot. Horizontal, vertical, perpendicular, equal, and symmetric. So those are some of the things that we may use today. All right, so I'm going to click on that line. And remember I said that that should be horizontal. So I'm going to come to my constraints. Notice that that's still selected. I'm going to choose horizontal. And this needs to be aligned with this. So we need to make those coincident. So whatever happens to one line, if I move that up and down, I want the same thing to happen to this line right here. So I select both of those. I come back to my constraints and I want those two to be coincident. And the same for these two lines, those should be coincident as well. Okay, so you'll see that when I drag one up and down, the other goes up and down, and same here as well. So now remember I said that this needs to be symmetric from left to right. This is our vertical reference line. So whatever needs to be symmetric, I'm going to select those two things. So that line needs to be symmetric with that line. And I have my vertical reference selected already. Come to my constraints, and then I will choose symmetric. Okay, so let me choose my reference line again. Choose this line and that line. Those two need to be symmetric. And then likewise, those two need to be symmetric. And then I will make that symmetric. So now, what I'm going to do is put in some dimensions. I know that the overall width should be, here's my dimension tool, and I can either go from point to point, or I can put in a dimension another way. So this needs to be 50 millimeters. And my units are already in millimeters. So if your units were in inches, but you wanted to make sure that you have 50 millimeters, then you can just go ahead and put that mm, and then that will be 50 millimeters. All right, so you just saw me put in a dimension from point to point. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a dimension from line to line. Okay, so I'll put in the dimension for this. Okay, so dimension from line to line this time, that's going to be 10 millimeters. And I'm going to make my reference line a little shorter. Okay, because I want to actually see that dimension right there. All right, so I'll put in a dimension from point to point and then from line to line. So now I'm going to put in a dimension for just that line. So if you have a horizontal dimension, there are several ways that you can put that in. Even if you have a vertical dimension, you can go from point to point, line to line, or you can just click on that line. So here's my dimension tool. This line needs to be 20 millimeters. Okay, so I just showed you 3 different ways to put in a dimension. Now let's put in the rest of our dimensions. So I'm going to click on the line, which is usually what I do. This is 5 millimeters. This one is, let's see, what's that dimension? It's going to be 25 millimeters. And then this line is 20 millimeters. So let's see, what does it not like? I have in all of my dimensions, but you can see here that all of my lines are not black. Now, since these are the vertical lines that, I'm sorry, these are the horizontal lines that are blue, it's looking for a vertical reference. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to align something with my origin. So I'm going to just click on that bottom line, and I clicked on my origin, and I'm going to make the coincident. There's something else that I'm missing. So let me see if I could put in another reference. Oh, you know what? This is my origin right here. That's what's missing. So I'll select my origin, and then I'm going to make that coincident. And now everything is black. And that is it.